Well, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is in Washington for talks with lawmakers and President Biden. On the agenda are the Israel-Hamas war and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Ahead of his trip, the Chancellor gave a brief statement in which he urged the EU and US to do more to help Ukraine in its fight against Russia. The US Senate remains divided on releasing more funds. Last week, the EU approved a €50 billion aid package for Ukraine following months of wrangling. Chancellor Scholz appealed to lawmakers in Congress to put their differences aside.
The developments that we're currently observing in the US Senate are a positive sign. We hope a decision will be made soon. I don't want to speculate on how long it will take. It may take a few more attempts, but it would be good if a decision came soon. This is about sending a big, important and clear message to the Russian president, and it's about active help for Ukraine.
Chief Political Editor Michaela Küfner is standing by. So aid for Ukraine is going to be the focus of this meeting. What can we expect in regard to that?
Well, the German Chancellor is arriving in a very volatile week here in domestic politics that is increasingly spilling out into the world, having a direct effect potentially on Ukraine. And that's, of course, what Olaf Scholz is concerned about, what his EU partners are concerned about. He was very happy that he was able to present in time a success from the European end, having secured 50 billion euros worth of funding from Europeans. But it's the United States who is the biggest assistant to Ukraine in this fight against Russia, particularly militarily. There, Germany is the second largest, so you have the first and second largest ally in military terms sitting down today and working out on how to best help Ukraine more into the future, with the US experiencing that political domestic squeeze that comes as a direct order from Donald Trump, who is slowing down and potentially bringing to a grinding halt the continuous flow of US assistance to Ukraine. So Olaf Scholz knows he's taking home some homework, that's for sure, that Europeans will have to do more.
And aid for Israel and Taiwan will also be on the agenda. Tell us more about that.
Yes, these, of course, are also two key conflicts. We will also see Israel's two staunchest allies sitting down here today. And both, we just heard it, US President Biden directly criticizing Israel for its military campaign being, quote, over the top, also calling for a sustained cease of fighting, whatever that means in practical terms. So both seem to be pretty much on the same page there, which we've heard from the German side requires a lot of coordination as well. And Taiwan is looming on the horizon as the next potential upset to a world order, to a relative stability that is being attacked from all sides. Here, both leaders will also be speaking about China, of which both are economically also highly dependent. So it's all interconnected, but we're seeing more and more key potential conflict areas that could upset also the stability of these two countries.
And Michaela, on a lighter note, Scholz also met with what he calls his doppelganger. Tell us a little bit more about the man who makes the Chancellor smile.
Well, he actually isn't really known as very much of someone who has a particular sense of humor, but it looks that Olaf Scholz seems to be discovering that when he heads to the United States. But that certainly can't gloss over the fact that we're heading into various serious talks and very serious times here in D.C.
Okay. Michaela Küfner, thank you so much. And we have to say that Chris Coons does indeed look a lot like Chancellor Scholz. DW's Washington Bureau Chief Ines Pohl takes a look now at some of Scholz's previous visits to the White House and where German-American relations could be heading in the future.
When US President Joe Biden and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz meet in Washington, the stakes can hardly be higher. The danger of the conflict in the Middle East escalating into a conflagration seems to be increasing every day. The Russian aggression against Ukraine shows no sign of stopping.
Biden calls Scholz when he wants to talk to Europe, particularly on the two big crises, Ukraine and the Middle East. Scholz just helped get a €50 billion aid package for Kyiv across the political finishing line at an EU summit in Brussels. And just like the United States, Germany is staunchly at Israel's side.
The US President and the German Chancellor will come together to reaffirm their strong support for Ukraine. When Olaf Scholz will be meeting Joe Biden here in the Oval Office right behind me, he will not only be meeting a president who is unable to get any further funding for Ukraine through Congress, but also a president who is just at the beginning of an election cycle on which end we might see another president in the White House who promised to cut all funding for Ukraine. If Donald Trump wins, this visit of a German chancellor at the White House might be the last one for quite some time. The former president cares little about the transatlantic relationship and even less about a good relationship with Germany, putting the future of US-German cooperation on the thorniest global issues very much in doubt.